Good evening, John Augustine, Bishop Joseph E. Strickland, light. I like the word light. Yes, something else, but and then it's a challenge for the laity in the 21st century. And really, he does concentrate on that because the laity are families, mothers and fathers and children. And his parishes in East Time or in Texas, spread over many areas, and the majority in that part of Texas are of the Protestant persuasion. So he talks about catechisms, which really is catechism, and that it needs to be taught in the schools, and sometimes it's taught not the way it should be. It's taught in a way that doesn't nourish the faith the way you would expect it. It can be done then in the home. But he reckons that because of the pressure on the secular world and the lack of the promoting of the proper way to practice the Catholic faith, not in a laissez, not in a sort of come and go fashion. In other words, you go to mass on a Sunday, but that's it. He kind of would like it to be the center of a person's life and to be a very meaningful experience. But all that has been because of the way the culture is, and even himself, he was lately come to this when he realized that the lack of the appreciation of the marvelous gifts of the Catholic faith, with all the sacraments and the presence, in especially in the Catholic Church, the way, the truth, and the life. He doesn't use those type of expressions, but these are the expressions that we were taught when we were growing up. And we had religious classes in the schools, and they were taken very strict. And you also had some in the home where the Holy Rosary might be said. Now, he doesn't mention that, but he mentions about the sometimes even people that are employees are not passing on the word, the word, way, the truth, and the life. They might support people that find themselves in not able to have a child or something, and be dissympathetic and all the rest of it. But that's not the way to go. You've got to sort of stick to what's right and not compromise. And people, when they're often told about what's right and think they're kind of doing good, they're often upset about it and sometimes even reject it. But you've got to do it and pray and that and all that type of thing. And so that the faith that are Catholics in his particular diocese, the same as any other diocese. And he reckons there's too much confusion in the church and diluted and that kind of thing, and that you need to sort of have a focus. And priests in his parish and been meeting and that, and to nurture the faith in the community so that it becomes the center. And oftentimes it is the center. But you start, that's the main thing, and you recognize where the problem is and try to deal with it. And sometimes there's an uphill battle as such, but it's necessary because the faith has been weakened in the United States, and hence you have support for abortion by apparently a lot of people in the media and the government, which is disgraceful. They haven't got seemingly the sense of what's right. Life is important from conception to natural death, and the same way with people that's vulnerable. They need to be helped. not encouraged to, with euthanasia, assisted suicide, to kill themselves. They have souls, immortal souls. That needs to be, I think, highlighted. And the bishop is going about it in the way his flock is in that country. We had a great foundation in our time, and the bishops in the world and this country also did things that weren't helpful for the practice of the Catholic faith. It did away with the um, did away with the altar rails in many churches, and yet they were paid for the people. So you need to put them back, and people receive Holy Communion kneeling at the altar rails. This is where the reverence comes in, and attended by a priest with an altar boy or girl and a paten under the chin of the communion to protect the sacred host. All these things help and nourish the faith. It takes a while for them to get used to it, but they need the type of laity that means the ordinary people that get the message and are able to then be out and convert, speak the truth. Because once you start doing that, people listen and they realise that perhaps they're astray and not realising it. Tolerating things that you can't tolerate. You can't tolerate killing of the innocent under any circumstances unless a mother's life is in danger. That's a different kettle of fish. But in 99% cases, it's not the case. And children that would have a lovely life are aborted. And that's the truth of the matter. Common sense and decency and civilization tell you that. All this thing is a comparatively new thing. I think there was savages years back that didn't know beef from a bull's foot, didn't know anything, and this is the sort of nonsense that went on with. But here we are in so-called civilization, and so it's nearly like the jungle, isn't it? That's no way for society. The family is the bedrock of any society, and a practicing Catholic family or a family that practice whatever religion they have in a respectful manner and have respect for others. That's the fundamental basis for any society. The bishop highlights other things, and rightly so, having regard for the country that he's in, which is the United States, and it's definitely gone astray in many ways, as we can see. And because of what they've done by way of the abortion and the gender business, all the rest of it, they're going to be suffering. You can't do things like that. And you have the Democratic Party in that country belittling other parties which are substantial, like the Republican Party. You can't do things like that. You've got to respect. You can't do things like that. You're leaving everything in a very dangerous position, and they're worried about the blinking climate or yapping about it. Did you ever hear the like of it? You can't do anything about that. If it's going to be a tornado, it'll be a tornado, and that's that. There has been in the United States, and there's earthquakes in some countries, and nothing to do with climate. It's just the way it is, and we had none of this nonsense years back. This is the age of darkness in many ways, with people supporting such rubbish. Avoid all the plastic, what would I call it, the supermarkets produce. They'd want to wake up and have goods that can be degraded or whatever you call it, so that they don't cause this pollution that their products do cause because there's too much plastic. But they won't admit that. They're trying to inflict misery on ordinary Joe people, and young people, I think, are so deluded that they're supporting this type of thing. So it's just that we have to weigh up these things. And Bishop Strickland is a good bishop, a great bishop, and he's trying to bring them along now that he's kind of himself has seen the light, and he's represents the apostles, and that's the truth of the matter. They have a very important role, and those that have been given much is expected. So they want to wake up to that and have souls, don't have souls that's going to maybe lose their eternal life because they're not nourishing the faith the way they should. Bishop Strickland now was trying to do it in his diocese, and I think people are responding. So that's what he was at there. That they would the catechism, as he calls it, but catechism, I presume, and to for people to get a good, strong grip of the great gift of the Catholic faith, and especially the Latin Mass celebrated in Latin, the universal language of the Catholic faith, the Catholic Church, as it was in my time. That meant you could get Mass no matter where you went once you had your little missal, and everybody had the missal. Most people had, except those that were like lackadaisical or maybe very poor and couldn't afford it. But they could always get them because, like, it wasn't means tested for you to get a missal. You could get a missal if you went to the parish priest and you were poor, very poor, and you couldn't afford that. Then you'd get one. I had one, and we weren't wealthy or anything like it. So my father had a policeman, but the wages were terrible small, only enough to put food on the table and that type of thing, and give us an education, which was most important. So there we are, and so I went on a little bit there, didn't I? But Bishop Strickland, and he was just doing his best to try and bring people into a realization of the great gifts of the Catholic faith. Bye now for the time being, and I'll do my hymns after this, and then let's talk. Bye now.